Hi hearts, there we go. New setup. If you're watching, I don't know why, I don't know who's watching. There's no way to know. So you might notice a new setup and a new look here, coming back for, let's jump right into the stream here, because with actually nobody watching, I'm, for whoever you are on YouTube, the one person, you may notice me being like more low energy. Because if I don't actually have people here to interact with, I'm just going to kind of blow through this. And then people can watch it back at whatever pace and however many times it takes until it sinks in. So, let's jump into Constitution class. Number 3. We left off, we were in Section 9 of Article 1. We're almost in Article 2 now. Let's see. Does everything look good? It's been a while since I did any streaming stuff because life's insane. Yes. Okay. Well, like I said, streaming to an empty house. I'm just gonna blow right through it. So. As usual, we'll read out here the black text is the actual Constitution right now. The blue text is a little explanation if I've had time to put it down or if I put it down yet. The red text is going to be what we reword it as so that it is not as confusing in 18th century, and there may be some green text later for things we definitely want to add, but this is just the reminder that we're just rolling through this, because in the next section here, there's an entire section that is kind of really entirely pointless to have done because it's no longer valid. So we still did it though, because it's important to know what the document actually means, even when they're not very good at citing which parts are current. So, Section 9, Article 1. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. So that's, yeah, of course, horrifying. So let's see. Migration or import, I guess they capitalize that. Sometimes we're going to keep those because we like the style. Importation, yeah. Let's see, what do I have? Any people, I know it seems silly to like try to translate this, but it's still important. Any people into any states was not, because we're looking back at this document now, so the fact that it's worded in the present tense or future tense in some places, we're going to be changing that because it's not accurate anymore. Let's see. It was not prohibited by the United States Congress before the year 1808, but a tax on importing a person could be made just not over $10. So it's rather than the dollar sign, because that's tempting with a keyboard, but that's not good for $10 each. Not good for general. Legal accuracy. We want to be translating just how old the language is. Translate the old out of the language so that everyone can read it and understand it with the typical American's 6th grade reading level today. Yeah, see, there's my comment there, obviously. So, moving on. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. Now, in things like this, again, we're going to have to just be content with translating rather than fixing. Because I think time has proven at this point that if you give some sort of emergency powers exception to a rule, all of the worst people will find an excuse to make an emergency in order to use the emergency powers. So ideally, this needs to be changed so that it is never suspended under any circumstances for any reason. But that's not how it's written. So let's see. Oh, where'd my red go? There we go. Let's see. And also this being a particular legal term already, we're not going to, like, we are in the rewrite, but not for the sake of simplicity here, because it is kind of like a whole placeholder. Like, these are specific things. You know, the writ of habeas corpus back down here under here, we're going to see no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. Those are specific things. So it's not a real way to more simply translate that into current. It's still current. It just needs to be removed from the document entirely, because this is another one of those levels of designed separation between the average citizen and their government. You've got all these legal terms that you have to know. It's like, do you guys know what all these legal terms mean? We'll go over it later, but like, most people don't, and that's part of the problem. So using it, even though it is very technically specific for the sake of the law, using it as the actual legal code in here, good. We gotta translate that later. But let's see. So the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, let's see, will not, let's get rid of like the shalls, will not be stopped unless the situation is rebellion or invasion, and the public safety requires it. Yeah, so again, just translating. Back down here, in fact, there's no way to do that that's easier than it is already. So we're just gonna do bump. Oh, this one. Congratulations, no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. That's pretty much as simple as we can say that one. Not hard to look up these days. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. So what does that mean? No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. Capitation is basically a poll tax, so no poll tax or other direct tax. Come on. Notebooks are cooperating. These are my notes I have here. Let's try here. Maybe that works better. No poll tax or other direct tax. Let's keep the comma there too, just in case. Like some of the syntax. Will be made. What kind of bracket? Comma, bracket. Unless it's in proportion to the census or the initial counting. Yeah, enumeration. Counting. I said counting. Enumeration. In this document, see, because it's going to be here. It's already in the document since this happened already. Before being officially created. See, so no poll tax or the direct tax will be made unless it's in proportion to the census or the initial counting in this document before being officially created. Okay. No tax. Okay, so all we're going to do here is simplify a little bit because they really do love the redundancy in this language to try to pad it out and make it sound more fancy. You know, like a fledgling country who doesn't know what they're doing might do. But we don't really need tax or duty. No tax will be put on articles exported from any state. Articles is another, that's a specific definition because it's capitalized. So gotta leave that one alone too. No taxes on goods exported. Easy. But like between each state, they didn't want that happening. Let's see, no preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's the kind of thing that you're thinking about when you're thinking about how people will try to screw each other with taxes or something. No screwing around. No reference will be shown by means of regulation regulation of commerce or revenue I'm adding a comma there because we kind of need it to the ports of one state over the ports of another. Vessels heading to or from one state cannot be forced to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. We can leave the word duties in sometimes, just as a treat for everybody. You know, taxes is an easier word, but sometimes it's more of a duty. So let's see, let's read those back and see how they sound. I've already written these out. I already got ahead of the game, which is why I wasn't streaming. I was doing other things, but now I've got the versions that these should have. I just haven't read them all together. No preference shall be given by any regulation, commerce, or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessel come to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. Yeah. See, this one seemed like it's almost a little longer, but it still sounds simpler. Preference will be shown by means of regulation, commerce, or revenue to the ports of one state over the ports of another. Vessels heading to or from one state cannot be forced to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. Okay. I think I'm doing a better job, frankly. Let's see. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. It's the kind of thing that they often, like the government is probably technically doing. I haven't always double checked them, but that's exactly what they're counting on, is that some people aren't always double checking them. When's the last time they did all that? It's probably somebody's job. It's some intern's job. None of them are actually doing it. Some intern's job to publish all the expenditures. Let's see. So, we're going to say money. Well, again, we're going to try to also eliminate as much negative language as we can. So much of this is phrased, and none of this will happen, or none of these will do this, or anyone but not shall haven't been. Okay, stop. You have to, word things in a positive sense because that's easiest for everyone to follow. Money can only be drawn from the U.S. Treasury as a result. Well, it's a result. It says it can only be drawn from the U.S. Treasury as a result of legal obligations not legal obligations, legal, well, come on, not even lined up here, result of, okay, funny, having a fun time. Let's see, consequence of appropriated by law. Let's see, money can be drawn from the U.S. Treasury as a result of legal it says I wrote down allocation by Congress. And now I'm thinking, is allocation too big of a word for half of the country? And it can only be drawn from the U.S. Treasury as a result of legal proceedings, legal because really allocation is like the best word for that. That's probably the problem. Well, let's keep it, I guess. I'm going to run through and edit these further anyway. And a regular count. Count statement. I actually said a regular account statement of seats and expenditures. Oh, that's right, because they were capitalized. That's why I was like, why did I keep receipts and expenditures? I would have gotten rid of that, but being another kind of specifically capitalized words that loves capitalizing their words. It's because it looked cool on the documents. Like, everybody was handwriting documents, remember? Like, you have to think of it as like how cool it looked in the font. Because it was all... I can only be drawn from the U.S. Treasury as a result of legal allocation by Congress and regular account statements. Statements? And irregular account statement. See? Little things. A regular account statement of receipts and expenditures of all public money will be published regularly from time to time. Regularly. That's what they meant. Let's see, you know what? I'm going to save a document because I've got these old documents. I mean, it's not that old, it would have all saved itself, but old habits, rather. Right. Oop. 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 Here's a fun one. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Let's read that again. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them. What's them? Who's them? The United States. This is also a language lesson half the time. There's no title of nobility. We're not doing that. Will be granted by the United States. We're not making anybody nobles. And no person holding any office of profit or trust under them states, shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Did you get Congress to sign off on that Qatar jet? I don't remember. Don't feel like you did. Among everything else thing. So, no title. I mean, I guess it does need to stay capitalized. Title of nobility will be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust in the United States. See, because like what Office, these are all office of profit, again, which is a specific thing that we already went through, I think. We've already dealt with that once in this document. No person holding any office of profit or trust in the United States. See, because that's just, we just have to really hammer on the correct language here. Is allowed unless Congress consents to it, except any present emolument, which is like a payment, remember, office or title of any kind, whatever, like that, keeping that actually separate from any king, prince, or foreign was not capitalized, foreign state, I guess the state would be capitalized, so let's see. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. No title of nobility will be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust in the United States is allowed, unless Congress consents to it, to accept any present emolument, office, or title. Oh, it's capitalized too, really? And well, I guess, yeah, because titles are like the nobilities. Or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. And that one's almost perfect. It just needs to get a little bit easier. And now section 10. We are almost out of, yeah, see, down there, Article 2. Almost into Article 2. Finally. The other articles aren't quite as long either, so we will get into the amendments soon enough, and that's the one everybody really wants to stick around for, if you are, again, the only single human being watching. I appreciate you, though. Let's see. So now we're in a new section. What else can Congress and Congress not do? That's this whole first article. Remember, the first article all outlines Congress and its powers. So section 10 here, Congress is saying other stuff. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or appraisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver, coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. So right away, like, they were like doubling down on a lot of the stuff they just, like we went through all those things for how Congress has the power to do this, and they have made like double sure, like, and you also don't have the power to do this, states. No state shall be able to do any of this crap. The Congress can do this. Your state can't do this. So, states are individually why is my brain like blah 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 blah? See, it doesn't give me anything. Not allowed to, enter into any treaty, alliance, Confederation, semicolons. Listen, I'm giving them the semicolons because of all these things. I'm not capitalizing all this crap. Not this time around. Letters of mark and Mac, mark and reprisal. Does look a little odd not capitalized, but it's fine. Let's see. States are individually not allowed to enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Grants letters of mark and reprisal. Coin money. Yeah, coin money. Issue. We're going to change emit to issue bills of credit. Make anything but gold and silver coin. Make, yeah. Make anything. See, it's not anything. It's anything. So that's a important difference. That's the kind of like pedantic difference that a good lawyer is gonna catch you on. I'm like, that's not what it says. But gold and silver coin legal tender. We're going to change that coin a tender in payment of debts. We're going to just change that to gold and silver coin. That's really what it says. You know, it's strange. It's like, so no state is allowed to change like their money individually because they make anything but gold and silver coin legal tender. So they're not allowed to determine, like, you know, maybe shoes are legal tender somewhere. Like, they can't do that. And then we've got, let's see, tender in in payments of debt is still part of it. Legal tender in payments of debts. And then again, bill of tender law. Let's put facto law. Law. What did I say here? Comparing. I mean, I guess obligate impairing the publication of contracts or grant any title nobility. Didn't really change that much in this one either. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of mark and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in the payment of debts. Silver coin a tender in payment of debts. That's a good phrase. Coin a tender is a good phrase. I mean, not for legal documents, but in like a romantic sort of poetic way from, 2 centuries ago here. Pass any bill of attainder ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts or grant any title of nobility. States are individually not allowed to enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of mark and reprisal, coin money, issue bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin legal tender in payments of debts, pass any bill of attainder ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts or grant any title of nobility. again, everything's worded so negatively here. The only thing we're really changing for a lot of this, for specifically, at least at first, is to make it a positive sound instead. So no state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. So, yeah. So, explanation. States establish, or as they established, that states can't tax imports or exports unless necessary to fund their inspections. Like, whatever their cost, it can't be a for-profit industry of importing and exporting for tax reasons. And the net of that tax goes to the U.S. Treasury and all laws that are controlled by Congress. So, it's really, really hammering home what Congress can do and what states can't in this first section here. And so let's see. Let's start with any state must have consent of Congress in order to make any taxes on imports or exports except for what is absolutely necessary for conducting inspections, executing. It said conducting inspections. It says necessary for executing its inspection laws, except for what is absolutely legally necessary Let's see, any state must have the consent of Congress in order to make any taxes on imports or exports, except for what is absolutely legally necessary for the states. I'm hesitant to use a possessive here. It's absolutely nice for technical inspections. The state must have the consent of Congress in order to make any taxes on imports or exports except what is absolutely legally necessary for the state's inspections. Absolutely. I don't like what I've written down here this time. Absolutely necessary, because I kept conducting. I was conducting. Everybody can know what conducting inspections are, right? Absolutely necessary. Any state must have the consent of Congress in order to make any taxes on imports and exports except what is absolutely necessary to cover the costs of the state. The costs of inspection. The state must send of Congress in order to make taxes on imports or exports except what is absolutely necessary to cover the costs of inspection. I think that sounds better. And net profit, right? let's say, and the net produce of all duties. Net produce, yeah, profit. Produce, net, because it does say net specifically, so another no specific term, the net produce. So the net profit of these taxes will be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws will be subject to revision. And yeah, we're going to spell control right this time. Control, not the old way, by Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. Any state must have the consent of Congress in order to make any taxes on imports or exports, except for what is absolutely necessary to cover the costs of inspection, and the net profit of these taxes will be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws will be subject to revision and control by Congress. I think we're cooking with gas here. I stumbled a little bit on that one. I didn't even like my own notes at first. You know what? This is why it's important to reread. Go back, go through. That's why I wish there was people actually watching me do this. But I don't know how to be entertaining. Oh wait, is this entertaining? Is this entertaining? Is little Mario entertaining enough for you? No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Admit of delay? Hold on, we're going to check the book. We're going to check the actual book, because, you know, I copy-pasted a lot of this and then double-checked most of it, but let's see. I mean, I listen, I copy-pasted it off of the official, website. I didn't just, find, this guy's congress.com. Unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. This is exactly the kind of reason that I have to do this. I'm convinced that no person on the spectrum has been able to read this entire document without going clinically insane. It's so badly put together, and not referencing itself well, or establishing anything that it's already trying to reference. It's just it's why I spiraled out after I started this already. AI viewers, first time chat. Alright, so let's see what here. Let's change the no state to any state. Come on. Any state must have the consent of Congress to make a tax of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact. Let's see, I don't think we need agreement or compact. Just enter into any agreement. How about or? contract. How about that? Not compact. With other state or with foreign power or engage in war. I like this part, unless actually, like they made that part got in there. They couldn't figure out how to say that fancy. Unless you're actually invaded, bro. Unless you're actually invaded. You invaded, bro? Didn't seem real. Let's see, unless, yeah. Unless invaded, actually invaded, or in such imminent danger. They cannot wait. Let's try that. Any state must have the consent of Congress to make a tax of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or contract with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger. It cannot wait. All right. And I think that's it there. That's, yeah, let's go all the way back to the top. Bam. So you can see you can get a good pause there on your YouTube video. So that was the entire first article that outlined all of Congress's powers and scope of abilities and things they can and can't do, and what the certain states can and can't do. Now we're into the much more direct areas, because these areas aren't as long. Ooh, boy. Tired. All right, we'll go for another half hour, or however far that gets us. There's a lot of stuff in here that's got the brackets of nothingness. So again, I'm just going to try to roll through here. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. And this is why there's so much stuff in here. Like, see, look at this chunk here. This has got a bracket. One of the amendments later took this entire process out. So I did I bother to do this? Let me look. I did. I went through this entire thing. So even though it's, because the problem is that, like, if it's not part of the document, take it out, right? Like, if you were to say, oh, this isn't part of it anymore, and it's like, okay, then you got to publish a new, like, you know, every other textbook and every other book in the world, you know, publishes updated editions of things. So if this entire section is like null and void now, then it needs to be like archived and taken out of the document and made as an archival document instead, so that no one's like carrying it around in like the little, like, why is it in this? Why is it currently in this? You know? Anyway. Executive power will be placed under a president of the United States of America. President will hold office for a 4-year term, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term be elected as follows. There's a colon there. See, I was double checking some of the stuff last. That's why I was double checking this one up here for will not admit of delay. That's the document. That's what this printing has said. So there was a colon there in the actual document. I did miss that one. See, it's important to double check. That's what we're doing here. So, the executive power will be placed under a president of the United States of America. The president will hold office for a 4-year term, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term, will, and together with the vice president, be elected, and he shall find. It sounds clunky, doesn't it? The executive power will be placed under a president of the United States of America. The president will hold office for a 4-year term, and together with the vice president chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. That feels really clunky to me, but I guess there's not an easier way to respect the document and also translate it, because that's pretty concise. Feels clunky though. I don't like it. I don't like it. Bad. Meh. Yeah. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. Trust of profit, right? Again. Somebody find and replace my articles here. No, office of trust or profit, because it's office of trust or profit. Okay, see, this is why syntax also matters, because it trips you up. So, every time. Oh, there, that's way faster, I think, than me trying to read it and type at the same time. Because doing those is breaking my brain, splitting it up. So, the legislature of each state will decide how to appoint electors. The number of electors per state equals, I think, that's what I wanted there. See, I'm already breaking my brain. Yeah. The number of electors per state equals that state's number of congressional seats, the Senate and House combined. But no senator, representative, or person holding any office of trust or profit in the United States can be appointed as an elector. Pretty straightforward. Alright, I'm going to do this once, so buckle up. Even though you can rewind because you're the only person watching on YouTube. We're going to go through this thing just to understand it, for how convolutedly bad it was, and what they changed and took away, because this was the original way that the founders wanted and made to do this. So just so everybody knows, people who like to harp on what all those racist, fucking crazy, high-ass hemp farming psychopaths had to say, if you're interested in like what their opinions would have been, this was the initial process they designed. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit, sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if there be more than one who have such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for the President. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall, in like manner, choose the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the President, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the Vice President. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the Vice President. So you can kind of see why they did away with that after a while. But let's hammer out this giant explanation. I'm going to put big caveat things on this, because having like an asterisk or a reference in your document to then look down and go, oh, like this document is just in brackets. This is how it really is. This style for sure. Look this one up too many times to not know it. But they didn't have like a no, where's the there, like that's all, and then you put it at the bottom of the page and be like, this isn't a thing anymore because of the blah blah blah, like this got taken out. Like you could have done that, but no. Okay, again, not going to be talking while I'm typing this time. Maybe let's see how close I can get. as the same state as the yeah. I have trouble with the V here. Oh, let's see here. And it states the President of the Senate, the President of the Senate will for the Congress of all notifications on the person of the count, the person of the person one person if more okay. About halfway done with that. And then we'll go through it once more just for kicks. of the states and majority of states represented is necessary to make choice. Every case Alright, I think let's roll through it here one more time. I'm going to see if we can get it. So, the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all of the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, direct to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such a majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for President, and if no person have a majority, let's double check that English too, just to be absolutely pedantic about it, because I've gone through this entire pointless exercise. Where is this? And if no person have a majority, that's correct. And if no person have a majority, slightly bad English there too, isn't it? Then from the 5 highest on the list, the said house shall make in like, what's going on here? Feeling like my copy is all messed up for some reason, and it's not, but five highest. So, what shall I be counting the person having the greatest number of votes? Five highest on the list. Said house, yeah, it does say that. It said if they've actually referenced it like that. That seemed so out of character for them to reference that correctly. Like, you can tell how many hands had in writing this, because like that feels like what I would have done. I mean, reference said house. Then the 5 highest on the list, said house. The said house shall unlikely choose the president. Yeah, That's exactly right. That's exactly what's in the document. I gotta trust my documents, man. But in choosing the president, the vote should be taken by states, and the representation from each state having one vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members of 2/3 of the states, and the majority of all states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes for the elector shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more that have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. So this is what they're trying to do right now. So let's jump into the pointless explanation, but I think I did a slightly better job here of trying to get at what they were trying to get at. The electors will meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two people, one of which at least will not live in the same state as the others. So, like, this is a cross-state elector choosing. They will make a list of everyone voted for and the number of votes each, which they will sign and certify and send sealed to the seat of government of the United States to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate will, in front of Congress, open all the certifications and then the votes will be counted. The person with the most votes will be the President, as long as one person receives the majority of total votes. If more than one have a majority and they tied, then the House of Representatives will immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. If no one has a majority, then the House of Representatives takes the 5 highest on the list and chooses the president out of those 5. But in choosing the president, each state gets one vote. A quorum to continue must consist of members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all states represented is necessary to make a choice. In every case, after the president is chosen, the person having the greatest number of elector votes, so that's after. So in every case, after the president, so we're saying after that, the person having the greatest number of elector votes will be vice president. But if there is still a tie, the Senate will choose by ballot the vice president. Incredibly convoluted. I'm glad that's not actually, like, they made that more difficult than they really needed to. There's a lot of English system legal holdovers that are a lot more ridiculous than they need to be. Well, that was exhausting. I think I'm going to call it there for right now, and we'll jump back into the rest of the first section here, or section 1. How much more do I have in section 1? So just 3, 4, yeah. With all that, I got halfway through the rest of section 1. So we'll continue with the section on the president again, but that whole thing's just a nightmare. But yeah, not actually part of the document anymore, since it's in brackets. So, good to know that what they were trying to plan, but, you know, it's good to know because of the kinds of people that are trying to take people back to the other ways. So, it's important to understand what their designs were, because it's the same old designs. Same old bad designs. Well, let's see. Beep, bop, boop. That's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for the one viewer on the YouTube channel later. Stay high, hearts. I'll be back doing this again until somebody starts learning.